All right, so let me see if I could get SmackDown on the TV
We're about
screen.
to go live, so
All right, no problem. Let's see here. Facts. Television. Let me see if I can get SmackDown on.
all right. We are live.
Yo, what's up, people? How y'all doing?
Let me tweet this out.
Our good people at the Wrestlebros. How y'all doing, everybody? This is Captain Lou along with my boy Vic Blaze. How's everybody feeling today?
Dude, Jimmy Uso is about to go one-on-one with Dolph Ziggler.
Bueno.
That's an interesting matchup.
It is an interesting matchup. It is interesting matchup. It is. Hold on one second. Can't give out the audio. If you want to hear the audio, you got to tune into your local Fox affiliate in the United States of America. For those outside of the United States of America, well, I'm not sure if Sky Sports still shows it. So I guess Jimmy Uso is a babyface and Jey Uso is the heel, correct?
Yes, and that can lead to some good
Look
storytelling.
at Bobby Roode, my God, yo, that guy looks freaking awesome.
I love Bobby Roode.
Whew.
I love me some Bobby Roode. Yeah.
Looks fantastic, brother. He really does. Yeah. All right, no more Macho Man references there.
You can never get enough.
So we got the collar and elbow tie up here. Boom. Oh, and down goes Ziggler. Man, that referee's going to have to get up and down pretty quick with these two guys in the ring. These two cats are athletic, man. And Ziggler, I mean, I can't say enough good things about Ziggler in terms of his ability to wrestle. He's just really, really great.
Yeah. I'd like to see a NXT run for him.
Nah.
What's he gonna do? What more can he do up here? Really?
Well, you know what? That is a very fair question. Yeah, no, I don't see an NXT deal for him. I really
want
don't.
to see if he's as good as I think he is. But he will never be given the opportunity.
I'll answer that question for you, Vic. Yes, he is.
Yeah, but I've never got to see it.
I mean,
I've never got to see it.
I mean, so, ever since the Dolph Ziggler gimmick, came about after he was done with the Spirit Squad. Let's call it 2007, 2008. I mean, Ziggler's been with the WWE. Realistically, he's been with the WWE for 15 years. Within the Spirit Squad and in the Dolph Ziggler gimmick, I mean, it's a long run, a very long run.
Yes, it is.
He's fantastic.
I just want to see a nice 20-minute main event match for a title. That's it. Just one. Kind of like they just did with Cesaro.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with that.
You know what? I mean, he certainly got the skill for it. I just don't know whether or not the interest is there from the audience, I should say, for that match.
You build the interest, my friend. It's called booking.
Correct. But what I'm saying is that when you take a look at a guy who's been there for that long, I mean, listen, he's a fantastic wrestler, and you can book Ziggler to wrestle against anybody, and it'll be a good match. It's a matter of whether or not there'll be people who care enough about it to want to see it is a different story. And, booking or no, and again, that's not Ziggler's fault. It's just a matter that, he's been booked so poorly for so long that, after a while, you can kind of book somebody to a place that even if you wanted to elevate and push them, the audience might just reject it just because of the fact that they just can't shake the image of that person. And that's not the fault of the wrestler, because they're doing his or her job, and in this case, Ziggler's doing his job, and Just is what it is. And Ziggler off the top rope. Sometimes when I look at watch out, boom, and they wow, man, Bobby Roode, he took a hell of a bump for that one. Wow, that was like the safest zigzag. Understandably so, they did it on the steps. That should be an injury angle, and it's going to be the spot to go to a commercial break. There it is. All right.
Ooh. Yeah, that was nasty.
Yeah, that right there should, if you were telling a different story, that's how you stop the match, and you tell an injury angle with Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso, excuse me. Oh well.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll live. I will live.
Okay, so commercial break. So you want to talk about these releases?
Sure. Absolutely.
Do you have the list? Let me find the list.
I have it right here in front of me.
Okay, you go through the list.
All right, so we have, it's a total of 13 people. Almost all of them come either from NXT or from the 205 Live group. So we have Arya Davari, Arturo Ruas, August Gray, the Bollywood Boys are the Singh Brothers, Kurt Stallion, the tag team of Everrise, Fandango, Killian Dane, Marina Shafir, Tony Nese, and Tyler Breeze.
So not as star-studded as the last bunch, but still some interesting names.
I mean, it's weird because when I look at this list, just looking at it off the top, there are some talented people on this list, but unfortunately, and I say this with all due respect to all of them, and again, it sucks because again, I've said this before every single time, I never want to see anybody lose their job. However, this is the biggest blessing for each and every one of these talents because none of them were being used anywhere near a capability for them to be anything more than what they were. So as far as I'm concerned, this is actually a really good thing for all of these talents, for all of them, because the way that they've been booked, especially recently, just no.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about what they've done. I'm worried about what they're gonna do next. There's a lot of jobs out there for these guys and girls. How many girls?
Only one girl.
Only one girl. Okay, cool, good.
and in all honesty, with Marina Shafir, it doesn't surprise me actually. Marina was used, little or barely, I should say, on NXT television. I don't know exactly how she was progressing, but I can only surmise that after however many years she's been in the WWE developmental system, if she's never, I shouldn't say never, but she's been rarely used on NXT television, that kind of tells you, the level at which she was at, and maybe it becomes a matter of, again, if we're looking at a cost-cutting deal and the talents where they are in their particular development, it might be a matter of WWE cutting their losses in terms of saying, hey, this person's not ready yet. If Marina Shafir's serious about being a professional wrestler, she might have to do it. She's going to have to do it somewhere else. And again, she's an attractive woman. She's worked hard to get her physical body back in great shape. I mean, it's just a matter of whether or not she can truly make the transition from MMA over to pro wrestling. If she can do it successfully, then good for her. She'll get work elsewhere. And again, like I've said this before, and I'll say it again. For any of the talents that get released from WWE, it doesn't mean that that's the end. It just means that it's not it just didn't work out right now. If you truly want to do it, these talents will figure out a way to get it done and, make a name for themselves, get buzz, get better. And believe me, if they do get better, WWE will happily resign them. So
Yeah. I mean, and not only that, if you remember right before the pandemic, like wrestling was pretty hot in terms of places to work. And even now, things are starting to pick up. NWA is starting to heat up. MLW is starting to heat up.
well,
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of places to work. The indies were pretty hot, especially like financially. These guys and girls were making pretty good money. They were able to quit their full-time jobs
hey,
and do
listen.
wrestling full-time just doing indies. And I think it's gonna go back to that literally like very, very soon.
I mean, listen. My hope is, again, my hope is always a matter of that these guys and girls can be able to step into the ring and continue doing this if that's what they choose. Um, when I look at this group again, this group has a lot of talented people, very talented people. Um, the one thing about it is, and I say this again, I'd say with all due respect to the talents, none of these talents were talents that were going to be world beaters, and none of these talents were, with all due respect to them, don't make a bit of difference to WWE's current television product. Whether they're on or not makes zero difference at this moment. So again, it sucks because I hate it when people lose their jobs, because these people have, they have families to support, they got people they gotta take care of. So, it's always lousy when you lose your job, but at the same time, it's a blessing for them. I really do. Because believe me, these are people that I have the utmost faith that they can continue doing this and be great wrestlers elsewhere.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Uso just got the big win here on SmackDown. Hit the super kick on Ziggler, got the 1, 2, 3. He apparently this match. I mean, I couldn't hear the commentary, so I wasn't exactly sure what the story was, but it appears that this was like a big win. I don't know if you see, he seems awfully happy to win the match, but I don't understand what the implication of the story is. And there's Roman Reigns.
We're about to find out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not listening to the audio, so there he is. Yeah, you see Oos, I won, Oos. I'm only making things up, and then Roman's just looking at him like, yeah, good for you, kid. Good for you. Uh.
That damn zigzag was nasty.
Look at Paulie just Paulie just shoot him off, like just shoot him off. Just said, nah, we're good. There, Roman Reigns. Easy there, Paulie. You don't want to run too hard, man. You can hurt yourself.
Uh-oh.
And there's Roman Reigns doing his best imitation of The Rock a couple of years ago with the with the tracksuit. I'll tell you, man, Roman Reigns looks fantastic. He really does. You know, really, I'm really happy though about this transformation. He's just so, can't say enough good things about Roman Reigns. He really is. He's awesome. The one thing that WWE refused to do with Roman Reigns for a long time was make him a heel. And now as a heel, he's the best thing on the show.
Yep. Sometimes you got to put ego aside and just do what makes sense.
Well, I mean, you know what? I think that they were able to do the heel turn for him, knowing that it wasn't going to affect their sales business that much because of the fact that they were not selling any tickets. So they can turn him heel and kind of do this entire transformation over the course of the last year and change. Well, not a year, because he came back last August. So let's just say a little less than a year. And now he's just like,
Well, yes, yeah, I do agree. It is safer. It was safer to do a change like this and a complete like overhaul of his character with no when they can control the audience. Basically, they can control the noise, control the reactions.
It was basically done in a bubble. They were able to do it. They would do it within a vacuum. It worked perfectly for them. And in all honesty, this is. I remember that I liked Roman Reigns when the Shield first came out as a trio because I thought that he was a badass. But when they separated him as a single, I thought that at the time he was the least prepared of the three at the time. But I knew that just looking at him, I knew that he would eventually get there. It's just that when they tried it as a babyface, the fans were with him in the beginning because in the beginning the fans felt like he was their guy. But as soon as it became very clear that that the WWE was going to push him to the moon, the fans turned their back, and nothing that WWE can do creatively was going to make the fans feel any differently. And I think what they needed to do is exactly this, have him be a heel, have him get all the heat, basically throw it right back in the audience's face. And eventually, I don't know when, but eventually the fans are going to turn him babyface again. When that happens, don't ask. I don't know, but they'll have to get it right though.
Yeah, hopefully they don't pull the trigger too quickly.
No,
and ruin
absolutely not.
That's all about timing. You got to get the timing right on that. Yeah, but with Roman in the beginning, I feel like how we always talk about like Brett's rise and Stone Cold's rise, and it's like a bunch of stuff had to happen for them to get to where they were at.
Absolutely, yes.
And Roman was going in the opposite. Like WWE things kept happening that were like negative. Like when they split the Shield probably too soon. When they split the Shield, he got to keep the gear. He got to keep the music. Already the fans are like, what, why does he get to keep everything? It's like weird. So, but they're like, okay, cool, we'll get over it. Then of course the famous Royal Rumble with the Daniel Bryan thing, something they probably weren't thinking about, and it's easier in hindsight to like make that decision and go, oh well, either you just don't have Daniel Bryan in the Rumble, like you make Daniel Bryan come out like the next day on Raw or something, you do something different where people are not expecting Daniel Bryan. Because if you're expecting Daniel Bryan when Daniel Bryan was loved so much and everybody was wanting him to win everything, that was a really tough spot.
In hindsight, I think that was in 2015. In hindsight, that was a mistake.
Yeah,
Daniel Bryan should not have been in that match unless he was going to win.
Exactly.
And the fact that he came out, the fans lost their minds, and he was out of the match within 5 minutes. At that point, nothing that the WWE could do. They completely botched it. So I agree with you. In that instance, when you watch that match back, you realize, and again, it sucks because they're trying to push Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is being a sympathetic babyface. The Rock comes out and helps him, and the fans, the
Turn on
fans,
the Rock.
They popped for the Rock, of course they did, but then after it was all said and done, they were still booing. And
again, the Rock was in shock that he couldn't turn the tide.
Well,
even the Rock wasn't a big enough deal to get the fans excited about this.
You know what? At the end of the day, that was just a booking mistake. That's all it was.
No, I know. I'm just saying it was just bad luck. It's like it's not Roman's fault, That was like bad booking. And they probably didn't, probably when they were discussing it, they probably had no idea. It's like that's not something you think about. I'm sure someone in the back thought about it, but
if you book a match like that and you're gonna have and you want to have Daniel Bryan in the match, he came in. I think he was number 10 or 11. He came in the match. Well, what you have to do in that kind of a situation is that you have to have Daniel Bryan be there until the end, and then I think it was in the end. I think it was Kane, Big Show, and Roman Reigns. That's when The Rock came out to help him. Well, at that point, you got to have the heels toss Daniel Bryan out so that the heat goes on the heels. That's number one. Number two, the fans got to see Daniel Bryan for 30 minutes in the Rumble. So it's not like they got cheated. I mean, he came out, the fans lost their mind, and he was out there for 5 minutes. And then he got tossed out. And tossed out in the most innocuous way possible. Just silly. Just really, really silly.
I don't remember how I booked it, but I rebooked that match instantly, and I was like, well, I went on a 10-minute rant with my friends of what I would have done differently, especially having Kane and Big Show on the final four. We knew Roman was gonna win. Like once you see Big Show and Kane, we're like, look, they have no interest in having Big Show or Kane win this match. That's something I would never do. And this is not Kane and Big Show when they were, being pushed to the moon. This is 25 turns and a bunch of this is mid card Kane and mid card Big Show.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, right now for those guys, I mean, even then at that particular point, it wasn't the best booked match, and unfortunately, that did no favors for Roman Reigns. It actually hurt him more than it helped him, and it's not his fault. It's really not.
Yeah. Well, luckily, then
Now,
he's turned it around. So he's
yeah,
as good as he's ever been. He's better than he's ever been.
and he's only going to get better because he still hasn't reached the ceiling yet. He's
Yeah,
close.
I think he's pretty close to his
He's
ceiling.
close to it, but
I think his physique is as good as it's gonna be. His look is as good as it's gonna be. His promo can always get better, even though it's already good. I think the character's great. Well, characters can always get better too. They can always evolve. His matches are great usually. So yeah, he's this is prime time Roman.
no, this is primetime Roman. I mean, right now they're just showing the footage of all the damage that he's been doing to Rey and Dominic Mysterio, and the only question that I can think of is why, again, when the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, this past weekend, God bless WWE. They try. They got to get rid of that pay-per-view concept like immediately. They got to get rid of it.
The thing is that it's how do they book 4 Hell in a Cell matches over the course of a weekend? That is insane.
You know what, and you know what the saddest part about it is? The only one that we wanted to see, they aired it first.
Yes.
The only one we wanted to see, they aired it first. And the unfortunate thing about it is for them, and I'll use this as a blanket statement. In the Hell in the Cell match, Vic, what's the gimmick of the match? What's the gimmick?
The action in the ring and no interference.
No, sir. The gimmick. What's the gimmick of the match? What's the gimmick?
The gimmick? It's a cell. It's a cage.
Exactly. The cage is the gimmick.
Yeah.
So if the cage is the gimmick, then why in each one of those matches we saw chairs, kendo sticks, tables, in some cases even ladders?
Why? Know why?
Why?
Because they had 4 of them, so they had to make them different from each other.
Listen, the best one of the bunch was Roman Reigns against Rey Mysterio. That was the one that needed to be on the Hell in the Cell show. I mean, again, with all due respect to Bayley and Bianca Belair, that match did not need to be in the cage. That match was awful. And I like both women. I think they're both really good. I love Bayley, and I'm really digging Bianca Belair. But that match had no business being in the cage. None. They just had it for the sake of having it, and that was just dumb. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work. Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, as much as I like both guys, at the end of the day, I've already seen enough of the two of them wrestling each other.
No, there's all the matches, all the feuds right now I'm sick of.
Bobby Lashley versus Xavier Woods in the Hell in the Cell match.
I like that match. I just don't want to see them like use the damn Hell in the Cell like 4 times in a row like that. Like that makes no sense. I like that Xavier got a chance like that though. That was cool.
Who's this? Oh, snap. All right. Well, all right now. All right. As Jim Ross would say, business is about to pick up. Oh, all right, Playboy. I see you, Edge. I see you. Oh, snap. Watch out now.
I
Look
think
at
we're
Edge,
close to
man.
WWE bringing every single big name they have back.
Yeah, man. SummerSlam's a big deal for them this year.
I think, and I think they should try their best to get everyone.
Oh, they are. I
I'm
mean,
sure Becky's right around the corner.
Becky Lynch is right around the corner.
We got Edge.
I'm
I don't
expecting
need to see Goldberg.
I'm expecting Lesnar's from I'm expecting.
I'm
But
expecting Lesnar as soon as they get fans back. Which
why?
is
You know what? Here's the thing. Roman Reigns should not get the Superman punch. Come on, be a heel. Get your ass whipping and leave. Let Edge. Oh man, come on. See right there. I get it. Roman is the big star and all, but come on, Playboy. Spear, let's go. Bam. All right. Yo, Edge looked like a Viking
did
with
not
that beard.
expect to see Edge tonight. No, but I think we'll be seeing a lot of people.
I'll tell you though, this is a happy surprise.
Yeah, I want. Yeah, of course, I want to see this.
This is because you know what? Oh boy, dog, no. See, Playboy, no. Yeah, Devin was expecting Cena.
Hell yeah. See,
Who's that? Who's that? Oh, wait a minute now. Oh, Jimmy Uso now showing his true colors here.
I don't know. Like there's rumors about Cena coming back. I'm kind of I don't know if Cena can do anything good anymore. It's like the last 5 appearances have sucked.
I don't know. Well,
not because of him. I mean, he's just doing.
Well, listen. I mean, I say this with all due respect. When you're working with the Fiend, there's a
no. I like that. I actually like that. But that, I mean, I'm talking about, obviously it wasn't a real match. So if I'm talking real matches. I just think back to when Cena was on that U.S. title run where he was having the best matches every night.
Well, that was several years ago. I mean, at this point now, that's not what Cena. Yo, look, man.
Cena can have those type of match. Maybe not as good because he's not, active. But we've seen Christian recently have as good a match as he's ever had, or Edge. Edge is basically the same guy, probably better.
I mean,
I think once you're great, I think it's like riding a bike. Especially for Cena, who's a guy who keeps it stays in tip top shape year round.
I'll tell you. I mean, ultimately, when I take a look at guys like Edge and Christian Cage, John Cena, guys like that, these are top-notch professionals. These guys know what they're doing. Whether or not the matches are any good are not really dependent on their work in the ring as much as it is about the setups and ultimately, do people care? If people care, that's great. If they don't, then you can have whatever match you want, but it's not going to matter. And so that's realistically, that particular point of view. So, from that perspective, I think that, Edge working with Roman Reigns, obviously the way that WrestleMania ended, that's a nice storyline to have them continue. We'll get the one-on-one match, I think, this time around. I don't think we'll be seeing Daniel Bryan in the picture in this occasion, but I wouldn't be surprised if WWE works out a deal with Bryan Danielson to have him stay with the company. But in this particular case, I'd like to see a one-on-one match. I think that these guys kind of earned that spot, and I think they should have it. I would have thought that Cena would have been the guy against Roman Reigns, just because I figured that, no disrespect meant to Edge, but John Cena's a bigger name, so it would have made more sense. But Hey, I'll take Edge too, because in all honesty, he looked tonight. He looked bigger, like physically bigger than he did, during the WrestleMania run. So the man's continuing keeping himself in tip top physical shape. He looks outstanding. So God bless him, man. He's doing great stuff. I'm really I'm really pleased to see Edge back. I really am. That to me is a big plus. Well, Devin, I'm looking at the comments here. Uh, Devin, when you're expecting to see The Rock, I got to be honest with you, friend. That ain't happening at least until probably WrestleMania next year. In all honesty, you're not going to see The Rock versus Roman Reigns. Probably, yeah, WrestleMania 2022 when they're in Dallas. I think that if all restriction and I mean all restrictions are lifted in Texas right now, but meaning that the country as a whole is gets the COVID deal lifted. Trust me, you're gonna get 100,000+ people there in Jerry World. That's the big marquee matchup. So you know I don't think that match will be coming, at least not right now, but definitely by WrestleMania next year. I got no doubt in my mind that that's going to be the match that's going to happen.
I tell you what, if the plan for Roman is to beat Edge, then beat Cena, then beat The Rock, that
Yep.
is insane. In a good way. Good for him.
And you know what? And the thing about it is that's what they should do.
I think they should do it too, but I also think they should start grooming the next guy who's gonna beat Roman and have a big time plan because it has to be done correctly.
I listen. I
Maybe
have
it could be
no.
maybe Drew could do it. Even though I don't
Well,
know, I don't think he needs it,
I don't. Well, he.
but
Let's
it'd
put
be
it like
great.
this.
It'd be great for him.
I think that for Roman Reigns, the way that they're doing this is in having him, if he going through Edge, potentially Cena, and potentially The Rock. I think that that's going to be a very good. It's a wonderful thing for the WWE to do for Roman Reigns to establish him as undoubtedly the man in every way, shape, and form. Now, when you talk about they need to groom the person underneath, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They have to. Do I think that Drew McIntyre is the right guy? Again, I would say no, only because of the way the WWE's been booking him. Because again, they constantly have they constantly have Drew McIntyre booked in matches against the same guy over and over and over again. And what ends up happening is after WrestleMania, when Bobby Lashley beat him flat, no rebuttal, he didn't cheat, nothing. That was the end of Drew McIntyre's current chasing after the WWE Championship. And the issue there becomes is that WWE keeps going back to that match over and over and over again. And now with the stipulation that they put in, that now that McIntyre lost last weekend to Lashley, that now he can't challenge for the belt. Good, good, because we have to get new challengers. We have to separate these guys. Now, the biggest issue becomes again for both of them is that unfortunately, when you want to put them with different opponents, it becomes difficult to pair them off with other people and not make the matches look physically ridiculous because they're so big. I mean, they're pairing Lashley now against Kofi Kingston. And again, I understand, with Kofi, they could tell the story. MVP has been trying to basically get him to turn to the dark side and turn his back on Woods. Ultimately, I got a feeling that Woods is going to be the one that turns his back on Kofi. Ultimately.
I think I don't ever. This is even now with Biggie being separated from them. It's like, I thought it would be a lot better. It's actually has not been great. It's actually
No.
been pretty shitty. Actually, I don't know why they felt they had to separate them. I don't think I've seen them away from each other. It's not good. It's
Well,
it isn't
I think
only because, well, for me, when you separate them, Are they gonna are they gonna change their gimmicks or are they gonna keep their gimmicks? Big E's basically the same guy, okay. And I knew he had to be the same guy because that's what got him over. I don't want him to change, but if he's not gonna change, then he should be with the New Day. Like, in my opinion, keep them together if they're gonna be exactly the same act. It's the same act on two different shows. We're getting the same act. We're getting basically the New Day with Kofi and Xavier, and then we get the New Day Big E edition. So it's fine, but it's like it's not. They thought if they thought by splitting him up would make him a main eventer, it didn't work. It's like,
I
so I would rather keep them together, and he can still be a main eventer.
I think with the WWE, their intention was when they split up the New Day was to make Big E a single star. I don't know what happened between point A and point B, but I got a very serious feeling that WWE got some cold feet around Big E and just kind of said, okay, we're not ready yet. And ultimately, what you got to do is at some point is you got to start grooming people. Again, what ends up happening is you look at Roman Reigns and he's like literally head, shoulders, waist, knees, feet, everything above everybody else. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's more talented. No, not at all. It has to do with the fact that he's just presented way better. The way that he's presented on television. And again, yes, part of that is Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, pitching their ideas and being very active about their presentation on television, and it gets over. Now, does that mean that the other wrestlers don't do it? Absolutely not. Whether or not their voices are heard the same, or they fight, they fight to get their stuff, on television the way they wanted to. I don't know the inner workings, but when I take a look at the New Day, this goes back, and again, it always goes back to what I keep reiterating about how devastating it was when they split up the Hurt Business. Because picture this. Imagine MVP going to Kofi Kingston and trying to talk to him and basically saying like, hey, Kofi, what's going on with you and Woods, blah, blah, blah. Kofi and Woods bow up to MVP, and then they're outnumbered 4-2 against, MVP, Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander. They're outnumbered 4-2. And then Big E shows up one day on Raw, just shows up and says, okay, it's not exactly evened up, but you can basically have six mans now. And you basically made the New Day main eventers. Because
Yeah.
although Kofi's fighting for the title, but you have Woods and Big E neutralizing the Hurt Business. Because it kind of adds a little extra flavor to the story versus having, Big E, or excuse me, Kofi Kingston against Lashley. Again, this is not a new match because we just saw it recently on Raw as a television main event. And although it was completely set up to have McIntyre, get heat on Bobby Lashley, and again, I understand what they're trying to do in terms of, hey, you embarrassed the champion, but a guy like Lashley should not be losing any matches to anybody until he loses the WWE Championship. He shouldn't be losing to anybody. If he was to beat Kofi Kingston and then McIntyre gets in the last word, okay. But the way that was done was, I get what they're doing. They're trying to elevate Kofi, but there's a way to tell the story with Kofi Kingston, knowing that he's so much smaller physically than Lashley, that Lashley can beat him up. And the fans recognize how tough Kofi is because we've seen Kofi for over a decade on WWE TV fighting guys bigger than him and hanging in there and hanging tough with the big boys. Tell that story. Kofi could get over as a sympathetic babyface by getting beat up by Bobby Lashley than he would in terms of just being out there and just taking a shellacking. Like, I just don't get it sometimes. I really don't.
I really like, I like your idea there. That's a lot better than what I've been seeing. Yeah, that Hurt Business thing, it just, if they only knew how much they took away from Lashley on so many levels, because the act of the Hurt Business, or they were almost like the Black Horsemen and they look so cool.
They were fantastic, just
They were
fantastic.
it just worked, and they all looked so nice in their suits. And it, what are you realistically gonna do with Cedric and Shelton? Back to the undercard, it's like
Well,
you were getting a lot by having them be basically the tag team of the group.
they were the heaters. They were
Yeah,
the
they can take
heaters.
all the ass whippings for Lashley. They can come in and cheat for Lashley if they need to.
Correct.
When MVP is caught cheating, they can always come in and do it. You know, it's so many things, but it's that image of these four guys in suits. You know, they look powerful.
And they
They
look
just
believable.
yeah,
They
like they
look
look like
completely
badasses.
believable as a unit. Totally believable,
And
all four
now
guys.
it's almost like you can't get that back. You can't recreate that. It's like once you broke them up, it's like
And ultimately, the one thing that's a little problematic in this particular instance is when you take a look at the Hurt Business and you saw them as a group. Yes, we understood who the star was. We understood that Lashley is the centerpiece of that group. We totally get it. But understand that I always thought the real star of the Hurt Business was MVP.
no, he is. He is the star.
He's the star of the group because without him, he's
He's the MVP of the group. I know that's what you
yeah.
want to say. Just say it.
No. But what I'm saying is that when you take a look at MVP in terms of what his persona is within, he's like a cooler version of James J. Dillon. Because in the Four Horsemen, although J.J. Dillon was the manager, and we all knew that, but the star was Ric Flair. But when you take a look at the Hurt Business, although Bobby Lashley looks like a Greek god, I mean, just the dude is ridiculously in shape, but he wasn't always. You didn't really want to hear him speak because when he spoke, it was just like, okay, they don't go together. But when MVP speaks, he's smooth, he's articulate. He comes across as like the manager, agent, player representative, whatever you want to call it. It's almost like if the TV show on HBO Ballers was brought to pro wrestling, well, MVP is playing the role of the Rock in that group, and everything that he says is believable, and all the guys that are with him, even the opponents, because MVP is so smooth in what he does is that he's able to make the opponents look like they're more important than the way they're presented. Because of course, if you don't make the guys' opponents feel important, then the match ultimately doesn't matter. So it was just, again, I thought it was such a great group, and even though Lashley's done a great job, but ultimately, it's at the detriment of Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, because unfortunately those two guys have done little to nothing, since being separated from the Hurt Business.
Yes,
And
what
and that's
sucks
unfortunate
is
because they're so talented, both of them.
yeah, but even if you see them right as low card guys, whatever, and
You
you don't
still
want to
need them
push
in the
them,
group. You still need them.
the group was better with them because it made them a group,
Correct.
right? Without them, it's just Lashley and MVP. Lashley with MVP. They're not a group anymore. They're not the Hurt Business anymore. And what they don't realize is that the Hurt Business is more over than all of them, all four of them by themselves. The Hurt Business was over.
As a
And if
group,
it's
yes.
over and you have almost nothing that's over on the show, why do you break them up? It makes no sense. Everyone was better off when the Hurt Business was around. All four of the guys. All four of them. Even MVP, who's the champ right now, I liked him better being, the top guy within the Hurt Business. And MVP cutting the promos, and MVP when he's not injured, having matches too when he needs to, and then Shelton and Cedric being the tag team. I needed to see no beef between them, no drama, just ass kicking. Let them go on a dominant run, and then have a baby face that's worthy, beat their asses, and then they can regroup, get angry, get nasty, and be the Hurt Business again. You know, and keep recruiting, even if they never add nobody. I just think it's cool when MVP's trying to convince other performers, like, yo, like, maybe you should come over here.
Hey, you know what? Hey,
Like smooth talk.
this whole thing here with Lashley, this might not be a half bad idea. Why don't you come and why don't you come join us here in the dark side?
Yeah, even if he doesn't really want you there, let's say if he's just trying to avoid having matches against certain guys, he could always be like, do we have to? You don't have to have a match against Lashley.
Like, listen,
you can just join the Hurt Business.
You can just start playing. You can just play the track. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
Yeah, man, that's been one of the most disappointing things, and there's been a lot of disappointing things. But I think if something is just consistently bad, it's like, okay, whatever. But when something is good, and then you take it away, and then you don't have a replacement for it, it's like, oh my God, that hurts. That really, really sucks.
Yeah, I can't argue that point. I really can't. I would love to, but I got nothing. I got nothing there. It's unfortunate. That's all I can say. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. So, is there anything else you want to talk about while we're here?
Well, I mean, if we want to run through, if we want to have any conversation about the NXT shows, if we want to talk about, the Hell in the Cell.
Yeah, let's talk about Joe.
Yes, Samoa Joe.
You know what's funny about WWE? They'll do something that kind of works, but then they'll like just overdo it. I have a bad feeling about this Joe thing. I like it. It makes it has like it's like a anything can happen energy, which I like in wrestling. Like that atmosphere of like Joe seems like he's out of control. And he's waiting
unless provoked. Unless provoked.
Yes, which is still funny.
It is.
And they kind of rushed to that. I know they wanted to hurry up and like get people excited about Joe. But I feel like they kind of rushed that. Like that could have been a big thing when somebody provokes him eventually. But what they did it right away.
They did it immediately with Adam Cole. Cole pushed his button and Joe put him right to sleep.
As fast as possible, which I get it. They want to have some excitement down there, and
absolutely,
it's exciting.
And here's the thing: the reason why it made sense is because he did it to a top guy. Adam Cole's a top guy on NXT. He tested Joe, and Joe put him out.
Yeah, and to
establish his
that gets over that Joe's not going to be a pushover. Okay, but let's be careful here. Like if Joe's just going to dominate the whole roster and choke everybody out, but not have matches, I do think he's going to have matches. It's going to be maybe a couple a year. Maybe 4 matches a year type thing, I think. But I just think you need to be careful. If he's just going to choke out Adam Cole every week and never have a match with him.
I mean, I think that ultimately in this situation, this is a matter of, how can I say this? I think that when Joe was released by the WWE, I think that it comes across, this is how it comes across. It comes across as if when the trigger was pulled on Joe to release him, Triple H was probably not in the know until it happened.
Do you remember us talking about this? About guys or girls that NXT might scoop up on their own? Like, you can come over here.
And here's the deal. Joe won't be the only one. I believe at some point, because again, I don't know if the WWE will have another conversation with Aleister Black and try to bring him back. Because in all honesty, I think that Aleister Black deserves to come back. I thought that release was very premature. And I think that a guy like him, and I say this with all due respect, it's not a matter that as Tommy End, he can't go, into the Indies or to AEW or somewhere else and do well, because I'm sure he would. But I think that ultimately for the Aleister Black gimmick, the fact that they began something on SmackDown that lasted all but maybe 2 weeks, and then he was released. That was something I'm like, if you're gonna do something like that and then you're gonna pull the trigger, I'm like, okay, there's something there that goes, there's more there than meets the eye. But with Joe, I think that ultimately this was a release that happened that probably came. I don't want to say without Triple H's consent because that's not, I don't think he gets the final call. But I mean, I don't think that he was in the know of what was going on, and I have a difficult time figuring out how that's possible. But anyway, because as soon as he could, he scooped him right back up and brought him to NXT because he's like, "There's no way I want Joe wrestling anywhere else," which tells me that there's something, a relationship there between Joe and Triple H, that he's like, you will always have a spot on my roster, and if Triple H has NXT, he's like, NXT's my roster, I want you here. Ultimately, I think that with Joe, this whole gimmick is designed as a way to, allow him to still be on television, be in a really good position, despite the fact that I don't think he can wrestle just yet. If Joe gets cleared to wrestle, then at some point down in the not so distant future, that's going to be an opponent to Karrion Kross. At some point. And,
Well,
and ultimately, I think that would be a very good matchup for Karrion Kross because it'll be a guy that size-wise matches up well with Kross. And people believe that Joe is a legit badass. So if Kross can beat him, then that can help legitimize Kross. And Kross could probably work I don't want to call it a stiffer style, but I've always keep saying the one thing about Karrion Kross is he's got a tremendous look. He's got a great presentation. He's got the smoking hot chick with him. Everything. The presentation is perfect. But when the bell rings, I keep looking at him and I'm saying, you really, really try, but he's still too safe. And you can tell that when he works, he's trying not to hurt somebody instead of knowing that he can do all this stuff without hurting somebody. And there's a difference. And that's why part of me really wants, almost begging for somehow the WWE to get Karrion Kross and Brock Lesnar in the same room so that Brock can help, because I think that Brock Lesnar is the way that Brock works, the intensity and the believability, and every time Lesnar's in the ring, you as the fan have a subliminal fear for the guy across the ring. That's the kind of fear that Karrion Kross should bring with him to the viewer, that he can hurt the guy on the other side of the ring, knowing that it's going to be smooth, it's going to be good, and if Karrion Kross is going to be reckless, quote unquote, in any way, shape, or form, it's only going to be with himself. Because when Brock Lesnar wrestles, Brock's matches are intense. They look like they're real fights. And ultimately, the only time that Brock has ever been reckless in a wrestling ring has been with his own body, not with other guys. And the thing is that although people can say, they might murmur, oh, wrestling's this, wrestling's that, it's fake, it's phony, blah, blah, blah. Nobody says that when Lesnar's in the ring because they believe in Brock. And I think that ultimately a guy like Karrion Kross, that's the ultimate psychological thought process of, if there is a guy currently that Kross should consider working like or having the intensity of, it's Brock Lesnar.
I like that. I like that. What else is going on in NXT? Oh, look! It looks like they're doing exactly what I thought they would do with Drake and
Eli Drake, or LA Knight, because if we keep LA Knight, got to get it right, boys and girls. I know that again, we all know him by his Christian name, Eli Drake, but we're going with LA Knight. That's his name in the WWE, so that's what we're going with. But yeah,
it looks exactly what I said they would do, almost to a T, which gives me hope.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad it worked out, because because you could tell that when LA Knight cut his promo with Ted DiBiase, The first part of his promo was the man behind LA Knight speaking to Ted DiBiase.
I actually like when that happens.
It was the real person.
Yes, and that's a good tool to have in
Yep.
wrestling. And I've brought that up in one of my favorite matches, EC3 against Rockstar Spud in TNA, which led me to believe that EC3 can be a top guy and can have great matches using storytelling. That match almost made me cry. It was so damn good. And at the end of that match, EC3 goes into a promo. EC3 is the heel, and he goes into a promo where he's you can tell he's being his true self. It's no longer EC3 the character; it's him, and he's saying all these things about Rockstar Spud, who's his actual friend, and he puts him over big time. And of course, at the end, he's gonna go back into heel mode and finish the promo and get the heat back. But when it's time to say something nice before you swerve the crowd, you can be your true self and say your true feelings, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah. I mean, I thought in this instance with LA Knight when he did that, the first part of the promo was again the man behind LA Knight. You can tell his voice, the way he spoke, everything was much different, and it was great. And then when he said, "Now that I got what I want, it's time to get rid of what I don't need." Boom, and down goes DB, pops DiBiase, and DiBiase takes a nice bump. He goes down, and then he just started beating. LA Knight proceeds to start kicking the crap out of DiBiase. He gets rid of the two security guards. The only thing about it is that I think that ultimately it took too long for I keep wanting to say Trevor Lee, for Cameron Grimes to come out and make the save. I would have probably had Grimes come out a little sooner, but ultimately when I saw that, I said this was a perfect wrestling segment. This is exactly what it should be. And now what ends up happening is that Ted DiBiase can now be healed, can now be cheered by the audience, because the audience is not gonna boo him. He's not gonna be a heel. Cameron Grimes, as you aptly put, he's the baby face, and he's clearly now the baby face. And LA Knight, as fantastic as he is in his heel persona, is now the bona fide heel in this story. Everything has been laid out, executed to a T. It's exactly the way it should have been.
Yeah, and because of the story, now that $1 million belt is a feels like a real good prize for Cameron Grimes, right? So now his chase is important. It's a big deal, and it's hard to make these types of stories, especially nowadays, right, where everything feels like they're rushing and everything's coming out of nowhere, and it's like no thought is being put into these stories. There's some thought here. This is clearly somebody sat down, came up with an idea, came up with a plan, and now they're executing, and it's weeks and weeks in the making. So yeah, so now it's waiting to see when Cameron Grimes gets that big win. Is the match so good, or is the moment so good that you fall in love with this guy and it gets him over big time? And I think it will.
I think so. I think that ultimately what they're doing with LA Knight is what I hope that they would have done with him in the beginning, because in the beginning they had him out there and they had him lose in the beginning, which just just made me want to rip my hair out.
Thank God for this story, though. He can recover.
Yeah, no, this has been a really good bounce back for both guys, because in all honesty, both guys were kind of like in a little bit of a state of limbo, and again, both guys are very talented and the audience likes both of them. So I don't think there was going to be any real threat of them, falling out of favor. But it just got to a point where I was getting a little frustrated, because I'm like, these two guys are too good to not be in something that we can sink our teeth into. And thankfully this story has changed that for the better.
Yeah. You also had that Diamond Mine making their debut. You don't like it? Why don't you like it? You want to hear why I like it first?
Go for it.
I like that Roderick Strong is getting, like, he's the face of the group. So that tells me that they do have interest in giving him a shot to get over. I don't necessarily want him to be an afterthought, right? You break him up from his comrades, and the worry is that, okay, what do you do with him? Is he just gonna be like North American title guy for the rest of his life, or is there a chance of him, maybe moving to the main event at least occasionally? Maybe not a full-time main eventer, but maybe every now and then a main eventer. Right? Because you have Kyle O'Reilly, and they tried with him. They're still trying. He's in the process. And I think he's okay. He's okay. Cole is pretty much a made man in NXT, and now they're gonna try with Roderick Strong. So I'm happy about that. I don't know these guys that he's with though. So why didn't you like it though?
Ultimately, the reason why I didn't like it is because when I take a look at the way that the group was presented, right? When they did the the cool vignettes, they were doing all the little teases on NXT. I again, this is no disrespect because I know that Stokely Hathaway, Malcolm Bivens, and I like Malcolm Bivens as a manager. The problem is that he has been presented not strong enough. Tyler Rust looks great, good wrestler, but has been presented as nothing. The other Asian wrestler that's in that group, I don't know who the hell he is.
Yeah, but peep this. You're gonna remember his name. You know why? His name is Hideki Suzuki. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, kind of.
Hideki is who?
I don't know.
Hideki Matsui. And Suzuki is who?
Oh my God! You tell me the baseball players.
Ichiro Suzuki.
Oh my God!
Stop. So, in America, this name is gonna get over. This is a good Japanese wrestler name. I tell you that.
Listen.
I don't know anything else about him though.
The problem is that, and I say this with all due respect, I like Roderick Strong. I think he's a fantastic wrestler. And when I saw the segment and they beat up Kushida and they left him laying, all I thought to myself was, who cares? I didn't care. And the problem is with a guy like Roderick Strong, to say that, hey, Roderick Strong is going to be the featured guy in this group. Okay, fine. But that's a good opportunity for him. The reason why he works so well in the Undisputed Era is because of the fact that we all knew that he's a fantastic wrestler, and he works fantastically with the squad that he's with. Because ultimately, Roderick Strong is not a good promo. Bobby Fish is actually a fairly good promo. It's just a matter that Fish is not the featured guy. O'Reilly is a fantastic wrestler, and his promos are so-so. And Adam Cole is the best of all worlds within that group. So Roderick Strong was able to be the workhorse in that group, look like $1 million, in any match he had representing the Undisputed Era because they were the top guys. He didn't have to cut any promos because that's his weakest point. But now when you put him in a feature group with a Japanese wrestler that no one has seen, and then you put him with two other underneath talents, at that point, with all due respect, Roderick Strong as a individual performer is not over enough to elevate these cats. And ultimately, I think what may end up happening is that what they're trying to do is, give Roderick Strong a higher profile in terms of putting him as the leader of a group while elevating three talents that the audience doesn't really know that well. I don't think that at this point that he's good enough to do it as a performer, personality, not as a wrestler, but I'm talking about as a personality to get over enough to elevate himself and the other three as an over group, especially knowing now that you have the Diamond Mine, you have Hit Row, which Hit Row is actually they're actually like personality wise, that's like a 10.
They're doing pretty good. Yeah,
they're doing well. They're doing well. I'm not, like I said, I don't see them being main event players at all. But in the position that they're in, I think that they'll be fine. All four of them. I think that as a group, it works. But the Diamond Mine, no, I don't buy it for a second. I just don't.
I do agree. Well, what I didn't like that they made such a big deal out of a group that included two basically unknowns. So it should have not been made a big deal because now the expectation is that it's going to be a huge surprise.
or new talents that we know who they are from outside of
from
the
outside,
WWE.
yes. And in today's wrestling world, where people are showing up all over the place, you don't want to do that. You don't want to make it seem like there's a huge surprise coming if it's not coming. It's almost better to just have Roderick Strong, like almost see him recruiting people to have his back and just tell that story that so it's not a surprise. So we know what's happening. We know he's building a team. We know they're gonna be young up and coming guys. And maybe it should have been done, especially with Hideki Suzuki. Maybe he should have had a match and then Strong catches him afterwards. Hey, like that was a pretty good performance. Do you want to like maybe hang with me a little bit? I'll show you the ropes around here. I'll have your back. You have mine.
Not
Something like
even.
that.
Not, see the way that I would have probably done it is when was the last time that we saw Roderick Strong prior to his debut with the Diamond Mine?
I feel like didn't he try to come out during when's the last time you told me?
He and his wife went to Regal's office and he resigned, and Regal was
oh yeah,
Regal reluctantly accepted his resignation.
Right.
And his words to Roderick Strong were, "You're welcome back anytime."
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What should Roderick Strong have done? Show his ass up on his own, walk into Regal's office and say, "I want back in."
Yep.
Regal shakes his head and says, "Welcome back."
Yep.
That's how you introduce Roderick Strong. You introduce the Japanese wrestler, have him lose semi-competitive matches to guys that are slightly above him on the card. It impresses Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong is not the nice guy saying, "Hey, do you want to be part of my group?" He just looks at me and says, "I see you here and you're constantly losing. I'm going to show you how to win." And then when he looks at Tyler Rust, it's the same deal. Malcolm Bivens tries to get in his face, and he basically wimps down Malcolm Bivens and tells him, "I'm going to take your guy, and you got two options: either you join us or you bounce." And that's how he gets the two of them. And that's how you create the Diamond Mine. You do it over the course of whatever many weeks, because of course what you want to do is Hideki Suzuki, right? Ridiculous name, but anyway,
that's a pretty good.
You get him in. He's never worked a single match on NXT. He just stood there, and I was like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah,
that was the most frustrating part. I was like, "Who is this guy?" And he didn't even touch. I don't even remember him touching Kushida.
That's definitely a problem. But I will say this:
it's just dumb.
The good thing, I think, the good thing about wrestling in 2021 is that there's more than one way to get over. If you're Roderick Strong, I don't think you need to be a perfect promo or a great promo or even a good promo if you have someone to talk for you, which he does now. Another thing is Roderick Strong.
Bivens is a good promo. He is.
Yes, he's a good promo, and if he can have an MVP-like performance and talk these guys into their position, whatever, and get them over with his words, at least cut good promos for them and do all the talking, then they stand a chance, right? That's step one. These two guys, I don't know how good they are in the ring, but I do know how good Roderick Strong is in the ring, and arguably he is one of the very, very best in NXT for sure, if not the entire planet. And one thing, maybe it doesn't work on the main roster because at the end of the day, you have to get over for Vince only. It doesn't matter if you get over for fans. That doesn't matter. Only Vince.
You're right about
it matters to an extent because at least if it's preposterous like Danny Bryan, then WWE has no choice. They have to give in. But if you got over like a Cesaro when he was getting over and tearing the house down, that's not going to be enough. You need to be damn near you need to be perfect in Vince's eyes. But in NXT, Gargano got over with matches. Sucks as a promo, sucks as a character, cool gear, and that's it. Cool matches. And he got over big time. Big time.
But he got the thing is with Gargano, and I say this with all due respect, Gargano got over as a babyface. As a heel, and again, I've said it, till I'm blue in the face with Gargano. Gargano has worked very hard to try to be a heel and to try to have a heel personality. The problem is that nobody buys it because when you're 5'7" and 170 pounds, no one's going to believe you getting the heat. When he was a babyface and he was getting the sympathy, it worked really well because Gargano technically is fantastic in the ring. And yes, you're right. He does not have a world of personality. And again, he's tried really hard because I'm not going to discredit him. He's tried really hard, but that's just not naturally his strong suit.
Look, it's fine to try new things. I don't mind any of that. But my point is that I think Roderick Strong hopefully gets some opportunities to have some big time takeover matches. It doesn't have to be the main event because takeover is like a showcase of your top 5 matches that you have, right? That's how they kind of they kind of gone away from that, but I think they're rebalancing the roster and it'll get back to 5 or 6 matches. They each get between 15 and 28 minutes, something like that. And Strong will have his moments. And because it's a new faction, I think he is going to be winning. So if he can tear the house down and Bivens can do the talking, and if these guys can have decent matches, no, they have to be good. If the guys they have to be good too.
It can't be decent.
It has to be good.
These guys are
Strong is going to be great, but those guys have to be good in the ring.
Yeah, these guys have got to be next level because unfortunately, this is what ends up happening. They're basically in the same spot that the Hit Row guys are in right now. The difference is that the Hit Row guys, when Isaiah Swerve Scott went from babyface to heel, he was able to get over as a heel persona, and then the whole story that he told with with Leon Ruff basically introduced the other 3. Although we had seen Adonis, we'd seen him on TV. The girl I'd never seen, and I know that the AJ, I only saw him from the WWE Treasures. I'd never seen him work a single match. I saw him in the Treasure Show, and then all of a sudden I saw him on NXT. And I'm like, that's the same guy.
Me up. That messed me up.
That's the same guy. But anyway, but at least with them as a quartet, it works because you can believably see all 4 of these people hanging out together, and doing their thing together. And the thing about it is that there's a ton more personality. And of course, this isn't about wrestling skill, because if I was to say wrestling skill, it's probably on the other side. Because Roderick Strong and Tyler Rust are both fantastic wrestlers. I don't know about the Japanese guy, but because I've not seen him. And the reality is that I don't think that Malcolm Bivens is a strong enough promo and again, not a believable enough personality in the WWE. Because when you take a look at him, when you were trying to say, oh, he might be an MVP type, absolutely not. MVP has way more cachet than Bivens does at this particular point.
Well, I just mean that can he get these guys over with his words? That's kind of that's kind of his job. And if he can do it, also, this is not the same guy from 5-6 years ago, right? Because hopefully he has gotten way better, right? Because that's literally why he's here, to get better.
Listen, I hope so. I mean, I remember when he was in Ring of Honor, and I really enjoyed watching Stokely Hathaway in Ring of Honor because he basically played the chicken, the chicken heel manager, where he would do all the talking. I think he had like he carried the book of something. I forget the gimmick, who his guy was. The Book of Truth, I think it was. For his guy, and I forget who it is right now. It escapes me right now, but I remember the gimmick that he had like this big book, and he would be like, oh, it's the Book of Truth and blah blah blah, and he'd use it as a weapon in the match. But I think a guy like Malcolm Bivens is a very, very good in that role. However, the question becomes is whether or not those guys can get over. And after I saw my initial first impression was I'm not impressed at all. And for the Diamond Mine, I was thinking it was going to be something way better than what I got. And afterwards, I was just really disappointed. And at the same time, I thought to myself, you know, I'm not saying that Kushida is such a big star that these wouldn't be great matches. It's just a matter that with Roderick Strong, you're gonna have to establish Roddy as a heel, and again, if Roddy sucks as a heel, then don't have him speak. Period.
Well, I don't want him to
Don't
speak.
have him
If he's
speak at
gonna
all.
speak, he can say two words, and Bivens can do all the talking. That's why he's there. There's I know for a fact that's why he's there, is because they don't believe in these guys with their words. Now, that I know you said Rust is good. I remember him having a match with Ciampa, but I don't remember how I felt about it. How good is
I
he
enjoyed
really?
I enjoyed the match. I really did.
Like,
I
who would
thought,
you? I'm gonna go watch that match literally right now as soon as we get off this,
yeah,
just to get a better idea of his style. But if we know his style, you know it. Maybe we can get a better idea of what we might be getting, because I don't think these guys were put with Strong without a lot of thought being put into it. And I think they're there because they can work a certain style that makes sense
I
to
I,
that group.
I think so too. I think the one thing that again, I don't doubt that these guys from a technical perspective will be able to be very good at what they do. The issue becomes is that when you're going to present a group of any kind, and whenever you bring out vignettes and you do the things that WWE did to present the Diamond Mine, or the Diamond Mine, excuse me, the way it really has a connotation that it's going to be a big deal. And again, could this work out in the end? Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that, oh, it's got no shot. I'm just saying that when I see it, I'm like not impressed. And that's an unfortunate thing to say, because if the WWE really went through a lot of trouble to pair these four people together and to want to make it work, and as an audience member, I saw it and I was like, nah, I'm good, cuz no thank you.
Yeah,
That's a tough spot, because with me, a lot of times, again, whenever people are on national television as professional wrestlers, I expect them to give me good matches, depending on whatever story they're being sent out to tell. But I'm expecting good matches. It's not like I'm expecting people to go out there and have bad matches. Yes, it happens from time to time, but these guys are professionals. I'm expecting good matches. It's a matter of, can these people as personalities draw me into where it makes me care about their matches? Because if you got a show like NXT that features 30 good wrestlers on the show, what about these four people is going to stand out that's going to make me care about them any more than the other 20 something wrestlers that are on the show? And if they can't answer that successfully, then you got nothing.
well, I assume we will find out soon enough.
Yes,
But
sir. Yes, sir, we will.
uh, yeah, well, I think that's enough for tonight. How about you say good night to the people?
All right, my good friends. We are at the Wrestlebros, at the Instagram and the Twitter machine. THEWRES TLEBROS. For Vic, this is Lou. Deuces.